Hey, on this week, Comedy Timelines is back for the first time in a while, and we're going to check out one of the most star-studded series of the 80s with the Cannonball Run movies, and we're going to figure out not only if its timeline makes any sense, but if the rules of the race itself make sense. The starting pistol went off back in 1981 with the Cannonball Run, directed by Smokey and the Bandit's Hal Needham. It was based on an actual race called the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash. We then meet Bandit and Fatso. What? It is literally a movie that he is in. Victor has an alter ego called Dun Dun Dun, Captain Chaos. There's also Rat Packers Martin and Davis, Seymour Goldfarb, who looks a lot like Roger Moore, so much that he pretends to be him, which is very meta for a 1980s film. There's also Jackie Chan in one of his earliest American roles, and basically playing himself, although I think that they intended him to be Japanese instead of Chinese. Klinger is here as the Sheik, Bert Convy, Mel Tillis, and Terry Bradshaw, an angel, Willie Lopez, just call her Billy, and speaking of Billy, her cohort is a killer Santa, Billy's mom. After introducing about 1,000 characters, the race begins as everyone punches their time clocks as they leave. Remember this, they all leave at different times and they punch out when they start, which implies that the race is won by the person that crosses the country in the shortest amount of time. As they start in Connecticut. Also notice that the girls leave before several other characters, including the priests, and most importantly, JJ and Victor, who also have with them the notorious Jack Elam. And hey, if you grew up with a crush on Adrienne Barbeau, you can probably blame this movie. There's this line.
Victor?
Yeah?
Oh, the priest is black.
Oh, yeah, they have black priests.
They do.
Just so you get a perspective of our times, this was 40 years ago, not too terribly long ago, and the sight of a black man as a priest was considered unusual and strange. There's an assortment of shenanigans as the teams all make their way across the US, culminating in everyone being stopped up in the same place and fighting a big biker gang led by Peter Fonda, including Jackie doing what Jackie does best. The finish line is in California with a last dash foot race in which Captain Chaos loses the race for JJ's team and the Hot Girls win it, but several teams punched into the race after them. So there's still time. So why is no one else punching the clock? The priests left after the girls. They could easily still win. JJ's team was one of the last to leave. There should still be plenty of time for them to win. There's no date in this one except for the outtake gags in the end, which have a clapboard showing the shooting date of 1980, but that doesn't count. So we're going to go ahead and set the film in its real time of 1981.
He left. He left first. Mr. Martin left first. I can't. I mean, why were you laughing? Well, because he left and you hit me.
A sequel arrived 4 years later with 1984's Cannonball Run 2, and the Sheik is back, and his dad is and he's mad that his son didn't win the Cannonball Run, which he says happened last year, so we're 1 year after the first film. He wants his son to win the race, but there isn't a cannonball that year, so they decide to make one. The jumpsuit girls are back, but they're now Susan Anton and Daisy Duke, and named Jill and Marcy, and I guess it's debatable if they're supposed to be the same women. I think it's more likely they're supposed to be two different people, but it's a little odd that they have the exact same shtick. JJ's back with a slightly different toupee, and so is Victor and the captain, and there's some new guys with the mob boys, including Fish, and in the center square, Charles Nelson Riley. Jackie's back, but he's now paired up with Jaws. Blake and Fenderbaum are here, as well as the Doc And Blake mentions the Thornbirds, which aired in 1983, so if this was 1 year after the last one, that one probably can't be 81 then, and if this is post-Thornbirds, it may be real-time 84, making the first film 83 then. Kojak is here and Mel is back, but now accompanied by Tony Danza and a monkey. Elaine is here, teamed up with one of Shirley MacLaine's reincarnations, and the race finally begins, using the same punch system as before. There's a little hunter action, a little Gomer Pyle, Jackie does his thing, and hey, you want to see Shirley MacLaine all sexed up? Well, here you go. There's lots more racing shenanigans, including more Jackie fighting, and a cameo from Tim Conway and Don Knotts, and the Sheik gets kidnapped, so the racers team up and go to Frank Sinatra playing Frank Sinatra. There's some final silliness with the boys dressing up in drag, and all of the racers in an all-out brawl with the mob guys, and the race continues, and the end of the freaking race happens off-screen. So I guess we don't have to worry about that whole punch lock thing, and the monkey won.
Isn't somebody going to say cut?
So 5 years later, a sort of sequel happened with 1989's Speed Zone, which was originally intended to be Cannonball Run 3, but since Burt Reynolds passed on it, the film was then retitled to Speed Zone, but it is still a part of the series and fits into continuity. It starts like the others, with a Lamborghini chase, but there's no hot chicks in it. Otter's here, as is the Sheik, the only recurring character from the previous films, and they say that he was part of the winning team from last year. So, since he didn't win in the second film, we're at least 2 years after that one. Wink Wilkinson is here, as is David Rose, and Donna Dixon, Dale Arden, Sherry Belafonte, and to throw in another SCTV alum, here's Joe Flaherty and Max Headroom, and putting on the Ritz as the police chief, then arrests all of the cannonballers before the race starts. They then have to recruit a bunch of inexperienced drivers, and a close-up of a license plate expires in October of '89. So I think it's safe to say that we're set in 1989, and it would be 5 years after the second film. And if the Cannonball is yearly, there's been 5 more races since then. The race begins with the hijinks kicking off, and the Smothers Brothers are here too, and then Alyssa Milano pops in, as does Brooke Shields, and then there's some random craziness that leads to the Santa Monica Pier. Alec and Vic win, even though they're not in their car, because I guess that it's not about the racers, it's about the car. That makes the ending of the first one really not make any sense. A remake has been bounced around for a while, with the most recent news being back in 2018 with Doug Liman possibly to direct, but it seems stuck in developmental hell. So there you have it. It is 3 movies that I guess sort of have continuity, but continuity really does not matter. Obviously the first and second movie do have a pretty solid continuity, and the third movie is basically unconnected. Although it does have the Sheik character, which does connect it to the previous 2. So it is a part of the continuity. But honestly, continuity does not matter to these movies. The plot of these movies don't even matter. This was just an excuse to cram a whole bunch of celebrities in one movie. And I don't even know if some of my more younger viewers would even enjoy these, because if your whole purpose of your movie is to just jam a whole bunch of popular celebrities at the time, to the point that some of the jokes are just like, holy crap, that person's in this too, and so are they. But if you don't know who they are, it may not have as much impact as it did on some of the people that grew up on these things. But I really enjoy these. Speed Zone's the hardest of the 3 to watch. It's really not that great, and it's not funny. But John Candy's always lovable. It's always great to see him and Eugene Levy doing their best, even when the material that they're given is not the sharpest. But I still enjoy those guys. Let me know if you enjoyed these, if you grew up on these, or if you've never even heard of them, or if you just think that they're dumb. Tell me down below in the comments, and also hit that like button, subscribe, do all that standard stuff. You know what to do by now if you haven't done it What are you waiting for? Also, check out my Patreon page and my patrons, because these guys help keep the channel going, and you can too by going to patreon.com/movietimelines and helping to support the channel. I sure would appreciate it if you did. If you don't, that's cool. You can just keep on watching these videos and recommending them to your friends. And I'll see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.